Good morning. It's Kristina Dennis, the Transformational Self Empowerment Master, and what a beautiful, gorgeous morning it's been already. I actually had to step back in my room because the sunshine was so bright. And I've already had an incredibly busy morning, getting my son off to school, getting ready for this project that I have a commitment for on the weekends, and laundry, and let me see, walking and running 2 miles as I do intervals right now as I'm gaining my strength. It's just, it's going to be really busy, and I'm going to get on a California freeway here shortly. But I want to talk about transformation, and when you have a negative experience or a trauma experience with somebody, and, first of all, anybody who's abusive needs to be out of our lives. And I have been talking the last, 14 videos about getting a support group, getting people around you. And I urge you that that's the first place. And if you don't have that, there are meetup groups that talk about personal development. There are meetup groups that talk about experiences. There are online communities to join, including this one, to start discussing this stuff. But I want to discuss what has been going on in my life this week. And it isn't happening to me, but it sure has triggered. I don't even know if trigger is the right word. I use trigger as when something it comes up upon me and I wasn't ready for it. And, it shows up in the body first, and then all of a sudden, like, things are showing up. And it takes me some time in certain cases to say, oh, I'm triggered. This is why I'm feeling this way. I'm really not in danger. This is reminding me of something that happened in the past. And sometimes I get it right away and I move out of the situation. This is different. I have a really dear friend who I love and adore, and she's a hero. And she has been going through a terrible situation, one that you don't want, but we all know those things show up in our lives. And everyone can see logically if a marriage is breaking up and a family is breaking up, it's not a great thing. But, it's also really easy to go to, listen, this person who has decided he doesn't want to stay in this marriage or has rejected or hurt us, it's okay that they move on. And that's where I got to eventually in several relationships. Some of them I had to shorten immediately because the abuse wasn't stopping. And in my case with my son's father, it wasn't working. And, a child from a broken home is much better than a child living in a broken home. But how do you get through the anger and the pain and the hurt? A lot of us hear, forgiving the person. We hear all these things and it seems so simple. But I know for me in particular, there was so much trauma and so much rumination and anger and shame about having anger. And the thing about being angry is that it's a very normal response when someone's hurt you deeply or when someone has slighted you to be offended. And it's ridiculous to think that we don't have the right to be angry. Some very spiritual people, I don't know what your thought process is. I've said many times I'm a believer, but, Jesus got angry. He turned over the tables in the temple. And, I know a lot of people that say, being angry is an okay thing. But sitting in anger and allowing it to hurt you, which is what would happen to me for years and years and years. It would sit in my belly and it would burn. Sitting in anger wasn't helping me, and it wasn't really affecting the other person. So what do you do when the anger is ruminating in your body? You wake up. I don't know if you do this, but I spent a lot of years telling people off and coming up with speeches that were going to be perfect. Do you remember that scene in Sex and the City movie where Charlotte says, I've come up with the perfect thing to say to Mr. Big. I, rue the day that you were born, or something like that. And it's kind of silly, but I did that all the time. I did it, and I actually kind of would pick it up like a little toy and play with it when I was hurt, and not realizing, oh gosh, I can even feel it in my chest right now and my stomach and how much pain it was causing me. And it wasn't until I started started gaining knowledge about how to let go of those feelings and how to feel them, walk through them. The quickest way to get through something is to go through it, and duh, right? That's a silly thing to say. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of the pain happens when you're, I'll talk for me. A lot of my pain happened when I was walking back and forth before a situation, before I just went in and did it. And it wasn't until that pain or that stress became more acute than the fear of walking through it did I finally walk through it. And I'm glad to say, after 25 years of a lot of hard work and a lot of exploration and seeking truth, I've gotten to a place where I know much quicker, I got to walk through this right now. I've got to face this. I've got to concern this. But I'm talking about the situation when interacting with a person that's hurt you is going to cause more damage and it's not safe, or they've passed away. What do you do? How do you get rid of that here? And how do you let go? And I have used letter writing for so many years in every situation. It used to be like everyone who offended me, I had to write a letter about, or I had to write some kind of inventory about. But now I see that, you know, I can let go of those little slights a lot easier, but the big ones, how do you let go of the big ones? I can't tell my friend she's not allowed to be angry, and I'm not going to give her some quip advice about, you know, think this, don't think that, and things are going to be better. She already knows all that. What she needs to do, what we need to do, is honor our feelings and have an actual activity, an action step that helps us let go. And so when I was going through the abandonment period of divorce, and all the years before, when I was a single parent in many ways with special needs, that's not an unusual story, I wrote a lot of letters. I didn't want to walk around with it. I didn't want to put it on my son. Not that I would yell at him or anything, but he's incredibly intuitive. Being living on the spectrum, his senses are very heightened, and he knows exactly what's going on with me. And I think all children do. They know what's going on with you as their mother. I mean, you are their source, so they're going to be vigilant about what's happening. I wrote letters. I wrote letters that were mean and rotten, and they said what I felt like saying, and sometimes they were sad. And I wrote them and wrote them and wrote them. And I give this direction to a lot of people that I work with, and I think it's incredibly powerful. First of all, it's very cathartic. You know, again, I'm going to insist on handwriting notes. The other part, and this is why it's so important to have that support system and that person that is your wing person that's with you, is reading it out loud to somebody, not the person that you're angry at if they're not safe. If you're not going to have a daily relationship with anymore, you don't need to continue to hit that wall, that brick wall, trying to change them or be heard. So often, in situations where I felt like I wasn't being heard, the person that wasn't listening to me was me. You know, I kept going into a negative situation with somebody who was toxic or hurting or not good for me, and not listening to my senses. And my gut saying, stay away from this person. And so once I heard myself by reading it out loud, I like reading it to people because I like having people know really what's going on. And I like taking the shame out of being angry. We're all angry sometimes. But if you're not there, that's okay. Write it out and read it out loud as if you're telling the person that you're angry at what they did and how it affected you. It's nice to finish your letter with what you're going to do to take care of yourself moving forward, whether it is I'm setting a boundary, I'm no longer going to allow you to hurt me, I have moved on, I will pursue forgiveness because it's good for me. But read it, because your subconscious doesn't know that you're not telling the person. And you can get out of this ruminating state, get it on paper and get it out. And that, to me, is one of the best tools to let go of anger. And then we can talk about forgiveness, and then we can move forward. I've written 40, 50 letters to one person. I've written letters to my grandparents who've long passed, who were my first abusers. I've written letters to my mother, who has displayed many, many times over the last 49 years that she does not want to be part of my life, including today. She's never met her grandson. And that used to be a hole. And nobody could tell me it's not a hole. They would say, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why your mother doesn't want to be part of your life. But can say now, when I think of it, it's not here, and it's not here in my tummy, and it's not heartbreaking. And that's because I've done all that work. So if you're walking around with a hurt or anger or a speech inside your head, do yourself a favor. Write it out and talk it out. If you don't have somebody to tell it to, although I suggest you do, tell it to yourself in the mirror. Say it out loud as many times as you need to so you can get it out of here, and your subconscious doesn't have to keep reminding you that this person hurt you. You acknowledge that that happened. You acknowledge that you can get through it, and you acknowledge that forgiveness will come when it's ready to come. But until you're ready to feel that feeling and say it out loud, own it and let it go, forgiving is just a shortcut. That is, it's a hack that doesn't work. It just really is. When I first started recovery, I thought if I forgive everybody, I don't have to feel these feelings. And, that wasn't very long lasting. But aren't I cute? Remember when I said about being a performer and delusional thinking? That was me. And, even me sometimes today, but I can giggle about it and go, oh gosh, there I am looking for a way out of these ugly feelings around this person or this situation because I don't want to feel them. So I'm going to think good stuff about them. And, as you continue to work on your personal development and your transformation, this is going to get a lot easier for you to do, and it's going to be automatic. And then eventually, you're not going to think about it. It's like a foreign language, this kind of work and these kinds of concepts. When you're learning a foreign language, you might start recognizing a few words like forgiveness and, self-actualization and feelings and confidence and all of that. And then you start putting a few sentences together, and then maybe you can kind of understand when other people are saying it. Then you're able to really speak it. Let's say you're able to really speak it, and then there becomes higher fluency. And then I heard the final stage is you're thinking in it. And so when I think about transformation and the language and the kindness, the kind thoughts that I want to have, I realize that there's got to be all these steps while I'm learning it. So it's just one tool. I hope it's helpful. I hope you'll remember it. Write a letter, get it out. Don't send it to the person. It's not going to matter what they say. What matters is that you're taking care of you. And it will eventually leave your body, and it will leave you. So have a great day. I'm going to go finish my commitment, and I will check in with you all tomorrow. Remember, we all want to hear your story. And if somebody doesn't want to hear your story, they're an a-hole. Let them go. But I want to hear your story, and your story is worth being told. And first, you got to figure out what your story is. And I want you to have the skill set in order to handle all of the challenges and get that life of true harmony and true purpose. So talk to you soon. Bye.